Welcome to The Daily Show.
Good to be here.
What a day to join us on. Let's jump straight into the news of the day.
Yes, sir.
Nancy Pelosi announcing officially the inquiry into articles of impeachment.
God's delays are not God's denials.
Are you in the camp of finally? Is that
finally.
what you're
But I'm also in the camp of Ronnie. I think he expressed it perfectly. I mean, all of us have, we walk out to the edge, said, this is it.
Right.
This is it, and then only to be dashed and disappointed. But look, I feel there's no doubt he will be impeached. The question is, But here's the stubborn question. The question is, will he be removed from office? And that's a separate question that Mitch McConnell can answer. And that fundamentally is the question that goes to the expression of frustration that Ronnie just advanced.
Wow. Impeachment would require, though, 2/3. And so that would require Mitch McConnell to step in. Do you think America's at the point where partisanship is so intense that they can't see past that, where the Republicans go, no, this is our guy regardless of what he's done?
The only polling that matters right now as it relates to impeachment is where the Republican Party is, because that's all about primarying an incumbent.
Right.
These guys are scared to death. They're only incentivized for bad behavior currently. They will not be incentivized for good behavior unless that polling changes. And right now, it's overwhelmingly in favor of Trump as it relates to that base. And that's all he cares about is the damn base. He is not president of the United States. He's president of his base. And that base is getting stronger, but it is small. And I argue with this impeachment inquiry, it will begin to decline and thaw.
Let's talk about the reason you're in town. You are here for the UN Climate Action Summit.
Yep.
Climate change is having its moment right now. You know, it feels like it was a boring topic for a little bit, and then it got exciting, and then now Greta has really kicked it into overdrive.
Amazing.
California has been engaged in a legal battle with President Trump over emissions and vehicles, right? Now, your argument is you want California to be able to dictate its own emission standards for vehicle manufacturers, which they've agreed on, by the way, right? But the Trump administration says no. Why are you disagreeing with their deregulation of emissions?
Well, there's a couple points. One is Greta's point that she made, which was pretty profound, and you made that point earlier by referencing it. She talks about this notion of the fairy tale of money and economic development. Well, come to California. Our economy is booming. We have record surpluses, record low unemployment, record GDP growth. We are proving the paradigm of the genius of and versus the tyranny of or. What I mean by that is it used to be economic growth or the environment. Now it's economic growth and the environment. And California is proving the paradigm at a scale no other state in America has proven it. So here's the point on the emissions. The game changer as it relates to climate change is addressing the issue of transportation. 40% of our emissions in California come from the transportation sector. You can't get serious about climate change until you clean up your vehicle fleet.
Right.
The vehicle manufacturers themselves get where the world is going and get where customers are going, and that's towards the electric vehicle. California is the game changer, and Trump can't stand it. We are winning. We trumped Trump. We got four automobile companies basically gave him the middle finger and walked away from his desire to roll back vehicle emission standards and said, you know what, thanks a lot. We're with California. We're with the higher standards. We're with the Obama-era standards. He is beyond frustrated, so now he's threatening to take away our waiver, which goes back to Ronald Reagan when he was governor of California. This guy is petulant, but he's also losing. California is too big, and we are not a small, isolated state that he can ignore. We're in 60 lawsuits against the Trump administration, and we're winning the overwhelming majority.
You have made a lot of improvements, but of the cities ranked as having the worst pollution, 7 of the top 10 are still in California. Do you think vehicles are enough to get those emissions down and the pollution down?
Substantially, we will never advance our efforts. And the reason why is topography. It's the nature of California. Look at Los Angeles. You've got 3 mountain ranges surrounding Los Angeles, and you're basically in this bowl, and you've got the ocean breezes that come in, and it keeps that ozone layer down. As a consequence, the smog problems back in the 40s, 50s, and 60s led to the environmental movement as we know it today, and we cleaned up that smog. But the reality is we still, as you rightfully note, have 7 of the top 10 dirtiest cities as it relates to clean air. We'll never achieve our clean air goals without addressing the issue of emissions. It's the cars that are substantially and stubbornly the issue. We already have 627,000 electric vehicles. We want to get to 5 million in the next few years. Over half of the vehicles, electric vehicles in the country, are in California. But we need this waiver to continue that progress.
Let's talk more about California as a whole. One thing I've always enjoyed about looking at the states is that it feels like a microcosm for everything in America. Yeah. Every issue America has, you can find in California. You know, how to deal with it, how not to deal with it. One of the big issues in California right now is that of homelessness. You know, Los Angeles being one of the prime examples. The president was there now with insane solutions, but, you know, still noticing the problem.
Yes, thanks for...
What can be done, and what do you think should be done with regards to homelessness? Because a lot of people make it seem like it's an issue of like, oh, someone is homeless because they're lazy. But there's been a spike, especially in LA, like a giant spike.
Last 10 years, we've seen this. Has been a trend line, now it's a headline.
Right.
Trump, to your point, was not wrong to identify a problem, but he was completely incompetent in recognizing or recommending any solutions. And with respect to the question, the answer to the question is not complicated. Shelters solve sleep. Housing and supportive services solve homelessness. If we're going to get serious about this issue, we've got to focus on housing and supportive services. And look, I'm not making any excuses. We own this. I've been here 9 months, and we are quadrupling, not doubling down. I mean, quite literally doing an unprecedented amount to get serious about this issue. But at the end of the day, we need partners. We don't need sparring partners. We need partners in this effort to get folks off the street and get housed. And the Trump administration comes in, and they have the audacity to do this, and it connects some dots, Trevor. They come in and they say, we're going to remove your emissions waiver because we don't believe it's good for the environment. They had the audacity to say that. And they said on the way out, Trump said on the way out when he walked up to Air Force One, he said, we're going to have the EPA sue California because the homeless are polluting the water in the state of California. He actually said that. That's this damn administration. That's the President of the United States of America in 2019. You can't make this stuff up. So, look, we're hopeful in, a year and a half, we're going to have a very different conversation in this country about the new president, inaugural, that will begin a new kind of spirit and freedom alive in our senses.
Well,
we'll be all right.
Well, speaking of the new, then, let's talk about the NCAA Fair Pay to Play Act, because that's a new idea that is shaking up not just sports, but America as a whole. Yeah. College sports has always been seen as the bastion of, talent without the burdens of money. California has stepped in and said, no, there is money in the sport.
Thank you.
And players should be able to receive some sort of compensation if they want to from their likeness.
Yeah. Interesting reaction.
No, a lot of people like this, but some have argued that like the whole amateurness of the game is what makes it beautiful, is that you know that it's not tainted. Yeah. How do you argue for and against this? Do you understand why some people say you don't want to remove the amateur nature of the game?
Yeah, I mean, coaches make millions and millions of dollars, advertisers make millions and millions of dollars on the likeness of these athletes that give up, in some cases, their bodies and their health for the sports. I guess that's one version of a romanticized system. That's the current system. And with respect, there's a racial component. Close to 90% of these coaches are white, and the majority of Division I basketball players are black. The plurality of Division I football players are black. And with all due respect, this notion of student athlete, give me a break. These guys are full-time, expected full-time to sacrifice themselves for athletics. But when they're done, the next crew comes in, and it's just this cycle. And at the end of the day, it perpetuates a cycle of inequality and a lack of equity. And I think as it relates to the issues of sports, it's time to rebalance things. So I'm taking a good look at this legislation. I have the next few days to make a decision, but I recognize the consequence of this decision because we could substantially change the NCAA as we know it. But I think this question needs to be called.
I know you've got a lot of things to get to at the UN. Thank you for making time for the Daily Show. Governor Gavin Newsom, everybody.